Welcome to the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast on Tobacco Road Sports Radio and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. As part of your Wrestling Wednesday card, I'm your host, Michael Davis. Following yesterday's Top Rope Tuesday on Out of Pocket, I bring Mike Mele back from Mouthing Off with Mike alongside my co-host of the Cat Cave, Shannon Smith, to talk all things wrestling. We might have witnessed the best Monday Night Raw in ages on the road to WrestleMania, while AEW is starting to get its groove with some new additions to the roster. But where's MJF going? There's speculation around that. We have a packed show, but we are on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, sponsored by DraftKings. The way is over. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of NASCAR, is now live in North Carolina. Now you can legally bet on all your favorite sports anytime, anywhere, right here in North Carolina with DraftKings. For a limited time, new customers who sign up with promo code Tobacco Road and bet $5 will receive $250 instantly in bonus bets. DraftKings has the best features, including same-game parlays, player props, and more with fast and easy payouts right at your fingertips. With the race this Sunday, you can vote and bet on who's going to be the winner, who's going to end up top 3, who's going to end up top 5, however you decide to do it. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now using code Tobacco Road and bet $5 to get $250 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code Tobacco Road. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. 21 plus, North Carolina only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Deposit and eligibility restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook/NC. NASCAR is not sponsored this promotion and used under license. Joined by my favorite guys, Mike Mele from Mouthing Off with Mike Wrestling Podcast, and my co-host of the Cat Cave, Shannon Smith. You can also watch the Cat Cave this afternoon. This is why we don't do Out of Pocket on Wednesdays. We got Drop the Mic. We have the Cat Cave. It's a lot, guys. But I love bringing content to you. You can subscribe to the Tobacco Road Sports Radio YouTube channel to get all of that. Shannon was on the show, Out of Pocket Monday. Mike was on the show yesterday, and we did a little Top Rope Tuesday segment. And man, it is so good to have like a full hour to talk about wrestling, especially after this past Monday's Night Raw. So I wanted to post to you guys. Mike and I have talked about it a little off the air and yesterday, but Shannon, did you get a chance to watch Monday Night Raw on Monday? And how do you think it stacks up in the Raws of the Triple H era?
Actually, I watched it the night before, and then I watched it again on Tuesday. So I enjoyed every bit of it. It was really, really good. Now, one thing I really don't like, and I need to get away from the internet to be honest with you, because there are people that are saying, well, there wasn't enough wrestling and it was talking the whole time. Cody Rhodes got it right when he said that we're kind of in a dead period before WrestleMania, and that was he hit the nail on the head because for the next 2 weeks, basically what we're doing is we're building towards WrestleMania, so it's going to be about the storylines, how the storylines are going to be. A lot of people have really got to get out of their heads and realize that stories are being told in wrestling again. And this is where I look at WWE as being better than AEW at this sense because AEW throws a lot of wrestling at you. It's wrestling, 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 wrestling. And I get it because over the past few years, we haven't got a lot of wrestling. We haven't got a lot of quality of wrestling. But this time around, we have wrestling on top of wrestling with AEW, but there's really no storyline. There's really nothing to follow. There's really nothing to really look at. You know, the wrestling's great. Now, mind you, the wrestling's awesome. The wrestling's awesome. Love it. Great matches, wonderful matches. But if you want to get a story and you want to get drama, you want to get the real picture and that layer being peeled back, go to WWE. Hands down.
And we as humans love stories. Like
Yes,
that's why we watch movies. That's why we watch TV shows that carry you through a story.
exactly.
Mike, you were outspoken on Twitter about not being happy with how much time the women's wrestling matches got.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on this past Raw?
Look, when you really look at the build to WrestleMania, it has been one that is almost near perfect. I can't say that about last year's WrestleMania build. I can't say that about 38. 37, so on and so forth. This build has been near perfect, and the only thing that's not letting it be perfect is the women. And it's unfortunate because we've had this argument last year at WrestleMania with Charlotte and Rhea, where Rhea won the Royal Rumble and she didn't main event WrestleMania that night one, the tag match main event. And I get the stories made more sense in hindsight, but same thing's happening here. This Monday Night Raw was so good. Dare I say, it was probably my favorite Monday Night Raw under Triple H's, maybe top 1, top 2, and probably was the best Monday Night Raw we've seen in the last 5 years. But the women didn't get enough of time on the show. Look, Candice and Indy, they got right into the get-go. There was no entrances. It was a minute and 45 seconds, 2 minutes if you count the commercial breaks, which there was a lot of those on Monday Night Raw, which, I know 3 hours, but there was a lot of commercials this week.
Yeah.
And then, Becky and Rhea got time, but it's because right now you only have 2 women's matches announced for WrestleMania. So there really isn't a massive build for the other women because as of right now, there's only 2. Io Bailey and Becky and Rhea. So we don't know what the rest of the women matches are going to be for WrestleMania. And I think that's maybe why the women didn't get as much time as some of these other segments. But when you have the star power that you have in the men's division that you have right now, The Rock, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, it makes sense as to why they got the time they did. And the stories are bleeding over perfectly.
It feels like the 3 biggest stories heading into WrestleMania got the most time. The Bloodline story, whether it was at the beginning or at the very end. You had Becky and Rhea's promo, which immediately got personal. I was already looking forward to that match. And then once Rhea brought up Becky's daughter, I will not mention her name so Becky doesn't get mad at me. Do not want that. And then, of course, the World Heavyweight title match, kind of adding CM Punk into the mix. And it's interesting, Mike, you mentioned a lot of the women who aren't on the card. I mean, Bianca Belair has been promoted through the WrestleMania time period, and we're a week and a half away, and she has no match as of now.
Right.
My prediction is Bianca and Naomi team up to face Asuka and Kairi Sane for the women's tag titles if they're healthy. Maybe add Jade Cargill in the mix, another one who hasn't gotten a match at WrestleMania. We might get a battle royal of some sort. We might get a 4-way for the women's tag titles. Like, there's ways to add people in there, but Nia Jax is off the card. I'm not going to complain because I'm not a Nia Jax fan, but she's off the card. She's been a prominent figure on Monday Night Raw, and she doesn't have a match. So it's those little things that add up. Liv Morgan, who recently returned.
Yeah.
So Tiffany Stratton.
Another
where's
one. Tiffany?
Where's Tiffany fit into this? And that's what I've been saying. It's like, look, we're 2 weeks away. We're literally 2. That's it. We're as of the recording. You'll be listening to this or watching this on Tobacco Road YouTube. We're gonna be 10 days away from Saturday's night of WrestleMania. So we have 1 week to.
And a lot of those female wrestlers are. WWE's getting it right with the female wrestlers. They've got to have like the best women's wrestling. They've had it for years. It's hard.
I would argue TNA's women's division was blowing WWE's out of the water for a bit there, but WWE's did drastically improve.
And you're right.
They also lost Trinity and Naomi.
And exactly.
And they're hard pressed to recover from that. But I think WWE recovered from it. They were hard pressed to recover from it. But they recovered from it beautifully. And the Jade Cargill steal helped them out tremendously. I mean, I think it's a good idea to keep Bianca Belair a face, which I thought that they were going to have her turn into a heel. And I think that she would probably be a good heel, but she's an over face, and I think it would be bad on her part to get turned heel quickly. Like, it's not like Becky Lynch when everyone was thankful that she turned heel when she did. I think that she needs to stay a face, and it was a good idea. So that was a good call. I was wrong on that, and that was a good call.
And I can argue, sorry, Mike, I don't mean to cut you off, but Shannon hit a really good point. I would argue that because Bianca Belair is so popular with the new generation of wrestling fans and the younger kids, and she's such an inspiration and an icon for little girls and African-American girls, that I think Bianca should be a John Cena for the women's division. She should never turn heel. She should be, even if the crowd boos her, oh, Bianca sucks, Bianca rocks. Like they do a similar thing like with Cena. I think Bianca could stay a face for her entire career. Maybe she gets a little attitude here and there like we've been seeing right now, which, as a face, you can have an attitude, but I don't think she should be a full-blown heel because of the impact that she has within the communities that she's so popular in. I love Bianca.
And Mike, you mentioned it. You nailed it on the head. I see the Never Give Up banner, the towel behind you. That's really what Bianca has stepped into, was the void that John Cena left in terms of encouraging young kids and empowering them and doing a lot of Make-A-Wish. Like, Bianca stepped into that role, and she's done a fantastic job in that role, as well as continuing to do great stuff in the ring. Now, speaking of the women, of course, there's a lot of attention towards the Bloodline story, and it looks like the Bloodline are going to main event both nights. It only makes sense with Cody and Seth versus The Rock and Roman Reigns. You aren't going to put a match behind that, but a lot of people are complaining that Bayley won the Royal Rumble. She was kind of promised that main event spot against Io Sky. So I wanted to post to you guys, speaking of how the women have been treated the last couple months, do you think it's fair that WWE could put Bayley and Io Sky main event of night one? Or do you think that that's completely out of the question? Mike?
They've already advertised the Bloodline and Seth and Cody as the main event of night one, so they're more than likely not going to change it unless they pull a fast one, how they've done in the past, where the 3 main event thing. But we all know in our core, the main event is the last match that goes on the show. That is the main event. So I don't want to hear any nonsense of, we're going to pull there's 3 main events for WrestleMania. No, the main event's the last match on the show. As for this match, I personally let me open up a story here for you. Wouldn't it make sense if the whole WrestleMania 40, even the WWE 2K video game, is about finishing the story? The whole moniker of 2024 is finish the story, finish your story. Wouldn't it have been a beautiful storybook opening for WrestleMania Night 1 to start with that tag team match? Then we go into the rest of the action, and then everything is wrapped up in a nice little bow, night 2 in the main event. And it's just one continuous story that unfolds throughout those 2 nights, so that the impact of what happens in the tag match on night 1 and the first match is felt throughout the entirety of night 1, the entirety of night 2 going into the main event. That's my personal belief in that match.
In a way, that was kind of last year. With
Kevin Owens and Sammy. Yeah.
I like the idea. I mean, I think that would be really good, because I think doing a 3 main event would be dumb. But the thing that gets me about it is I hate that, Bayley has to kind of take the back burner to the Bloodline, which is pretty much all of wrestling. All of wrestling has took a back seat to the Bloodline. So I hate to say it, you gotta do what's right for business, which has been said many times in the WWE. You have to do what's right for business, and it's the smart move to have the Bloodline headline both night 1 and night 2. It would be the best thing to do, because the main thing, people want to know what's going to happen next with the Bloodline. They want to know. Not saying that no one else has a play in WrestleMania, because it's not like that, but pretty much the whole thing is Roman gonna retain the title? Is Cody gonna finish the story? And then The Rock, what is he going to do? And then what's gonna happen if the Usos, by chance, like Des said, one of them is gonna turn, and he thinks Jay might turn, which is looking like it is. I've caught up. And I've caught up on all the SmackDowns, which I was kind of behind 3 episodes. I finally caught up to it, and it looks like it's a possibility, because I thought The Rock was going to be the one who was going to spoil it. Everyone sat back and thought it was The Rock, because it's the perfect storm. It is. But I don't think so. The Rock is heel Rock in full effect. And when they started chanting "Rocky sucks" last night, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a kid again. This is insane."
Well,
I loved it.
And let's talk about that, because The Rock was unannounced for Monday Night Raw a couple nights ago. And when The Rock came out to respond to Cody, everybody lost their minds. They're like, we didn't expect to see The Rock. Oh my gosh. Like, The Rock is coming in. And everybody expects him to pick up a microphone, go back and forth with Cody, but he doesn't do that.
No.
He just whispers in his ear and walks away. That is The Rock. I don't know if that was the original intention or plan or not. That is The Rock understanding the vibe and the atmosphere in the
Absolutely.
arena to, if it wasn't the plan, to call an audible, because that's what got Rocky booed until later that night. The Rock ended up just bloodying Cody in the rain. You couldn't have drawn
Oh
it
my
up
God, it
any
was beautiful.
better.
It was like a
Exactly.
picturesque fight scene from a movie. Like, they're fighting in the rain and the John Wick type vibe. Like that hit so good last night. And then, The Rock cursing, great element. I think it's safe to say that when WWE hits Netflix, Raw hits Netflix, the PG era is finally going to be dead.
We're going to get the attitude era again, it looks like.
Oh,
Looks like we're
something.
going to
I think people want to call this era of wrestling the Renaissance era. They want to call it the Bloodline. But I would say this is like the reality era of wrestling because they've bled reality into pro wrestling these last couple of years. I know it's an argument. We'll have to reassess this down the line, but for me, it seems that it's or you could argue it the social media era because they take a lot of what fans complain about on social media and they spin it into stories like Candice and Indy. They spun the whole booing Maxine at the house show and they spun it into now Candice is a bully and gave Candice an opportunity to be on TV now. Same thing with Maxine and Ivy and Indy. So,
and we all know that kayfabe is dead, considering the fact that social media is going on and all the stuff that's being disclosed in front of us as wrestling fans. So this is a way to counter the kayfabe dying. But one thing that I do want to point out, and let's talk about The Rock, not taking the spotlight off of everyone and what CM Punk is doing now as he's hurt, taking the spotlight off of everybody else and making it about himself. And he's not even going to be there. So
he is.
he's going to be there now, but at first he's not going to be wrestling. Once again, The Rock is going to take another WrestleMania from this man, hilariously. And no disrespect to CM Punk. I see what he's doing, and he's a big draw. I get it. It's great. However, The Rock played his part. He knew his role, and he shut his mouth. He's taking his own advice that he's given to me for many years as a young wrestling fan. He did that. And all he did was action. CM Punk went in there, and not saying that promo was bad, because it wasn't. It was really, really good. It made Drew McIntyre a whole lot better, which Drew McIntyre has been great. It made Seth Rollins even bigger and made that title, once again, even bigger as well, too, which I like because the World Heavyweight title is a good title. And it was a great idea to bring that title back. But the thing that gets me the most is that, The Rock played that subordinate role. And then the big ending, the crescendo. And CM Punk just went in there and just, once again, classic CM Punk, made it about himself. And here we are.
So wait, Shannon, before we move on from this, I got to ask you, like, people keep talking about, part-timers taken away from, like, the full-timers, like The Rock's involved now, CM Punk's involved. Particularly about The Rock, what do you think about The Rock's involvement with this WrestleMania?
I think that it's
it doesn't matter what you think.
How did I fall for that?
Dang, you right walked into that one. That was good.
Oh,
wow, I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
Once you think you know a guy, you think
what? Right, exactly. You see,
that was perfect.
You do multiple podcasts with the guy, right? And he turns heel on you like that.
And once you think you know a guy, and then right here, and I mean,
just anyone listening, don't boo me out of my own podcast right
now. No, that was
Yeah.
great.
You're getting dirty Dom. You're getting dirty Dom levels of booers right now in the triad. So it's over.
And I'll remember that. I'm writing that down as we speak right here. So next time I'm on this show. Next time I'm on this show.
Hey, I've wanted to do it to Bully Rye, Ryan's co-host from the Cat Cave, a few times, but I've never gotten the opportunity. And I was like, "Oh, this is perfect." I did want to speak on like this because especially with part timers, I think you could consider Punk a part timer. Like The
Yeah.
Rock's at least, there each week building up to this WrestleMania. Punk, he got hurt. He went away, and now he's all of a sudden back and gets inserted into Seth and Drew's story at WrestleMania. Mike, I know you're a big CM Punk guy, and I promise I will not do the same thing as I did Shannon a few moments ago. But why would you have CM Punk at the commentary table? Do you think he stays away from the action, or do you think he could cost Drew McIntyre or Seth Rollins? But at the same time, it doesn't make sense for Punk to help either one of them.
Timeout. You ready? You're I'm going to drop the bombshell on you. And you guys are going to hate this because I've been sitting on this and I wanted to say it on my show, but I'll give you the pleasure. CM Punk has been inserted in commentary for one reason and one reason alone. CM Punk wants the World Heavyweight Championship from either Seth or Drew, correct?
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah, exactly. Who could screw that up for him?
CM Punk.
Then your Money in the Bank, Damian Priest. CM Punk is going to stop Priest from cashing in on Seth or Drew so that Punk gets a shot at Seth or Drew, whoever wins that match. Keep an eye on it. That brace going right to Senor Money in the Bank's face.
I love it. I love it.
And that right
He
there.
held on to that title. Now here's the thing. He's
Drop
held
the
on
mic.
to that. He's held on to that briefcase. It's been over a year.
If he holds the briefcase past WrestleMania, he will be the longest Money in the Bank briefcase holder in history, which is something I think WWE wants to have. We've seen in 2023, 2024. It's all about rewriting the history and the statistics. So I definitely see Priest holding the Money in the Bank briefcase for a couple more months. And then I think either a successful cash in down the line or a failed cash in. Maybe the Punk is the failed cash in. Maybe he screws Priest over so bad that he actually does cash it in, and that's it. It's a failed cash in at WrestleMania 40, and we've seen a successful cash in at 31 by Seth. So reverse heist of the century, and Punk screws Priest, I think.
I think that would be the best thing to do there. Not saying that, Senor Money in the Bank is a bad holder of the briefcase, but CM Punk came in, and I think it's one of those things where you gotta, el de facto, you've gotta yield. This is why I say that wrestling is the most ultimate gentleman's sport in all of sports. That's what it is. It's the ultimate gentleman's sport. You gotta yield it sometimes.
It really is.
Wow, Mike really dropped the mic on that one. You could call that he mouthed off.
That's it, baby.
Ready. He did say get ready. Now he did warn us.
He did warn us. I didn't expect that. I would be really upset because I am so excited for Damian Priest to actually win his cash in and become World Heavyweight Champion, because I think that's what the title's meant to be, is to elevate guys into that main event scene. And Damian Priest is somebody for the last 2 years, but particularly the last year, has went above and beyond. Like ever since his match against Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico at Backlash last April, May, like that is what elevated him to like people saying, oh my gosh. Like, and if you go back to that night, that's why I said it was the best show of any platform all of 2023. It was the night that elevated Damian Priest, and it was the night that elevated Io Sky to both of them lost. But then a couple months later, they won Money in the Bank. Io Sky won her cash in. She's going to wrestle Bayley and defend the title against Bayley, as Damage Control is, in shambles right now, or at least without Bayley. And Damian Priest still has that briefcase, and every time he gets closer. But man, what would be awesome, kind of building off Mike's idea of CM Punk cost Damian Priest the opportunity to cash in night 2 at WrestleMania. The night after Mania, the Raw, it's a big show. CM Punk comes out to speak. Judgment Day attacks CM Punk, lays him out, and that gets the last barricade away from Damian Priest cashing in later that night to end the first Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania. But we'll have to see. That is very, very intriguing. And we're obviously going to talk a lot more about WrestleMania next week as well, as we are close. We are very close. We're a week and a half away from WrestleMania, but I'd be remiss without mentioning another company that honestly, I've given a lot of flack for the last few months because of their attendance numbers. But it feels like around Revolution and attending that in Greensboro for Sting's last match, it seemed that AEW kind of flipped a switch. They're bringing in a lot of guys. A couple of those guys actually won titles last Wednesday night on Dynamite, and we'll preview tonight's Dynamite here in a little bit. But one thing that could ruin this is MJF. MJF, apparently, there's the whole bidding war of 2024 thing we've heard for the last 2-3 years. MJF was taken off the AEW's roster page. His merch is gone. This isn't the first time in MJF's career this has happened. It also happened after his pipe bomb promo on Tony Khan, daring Tony to fire him. So this isn't new territory, but I wanted to bring this up because it's interesting to do this right before WrestleMania. He's still rehabbing his shoulder as far as we know. Adam Cole actually hasn't mentioned MJF that much in his promos. So what's happening here? Mike, do you believe for a second that MJF could be headed to Connecticut and joining the WWE?
So funny enough, I was actually at the Double or Nothing with the whole MJF contract thing in Vegas. And he no-showed the meet and greet. And that was what started the whole thing down the line of then he came out for his match with Wardlow. It was boom, done. He left and then he got out of Vegas. I don't think MJF is WWE headed. I unfortunately, I don't think so. I'd love to see it one day. I think Tony Khan right now would be foolish to lose his homegrown talent in MJF. You know, he brought in a lot of big names right now. I'm sure, you know, you'll touch on that in a moment. I don't think it's smart in the grand scheme of things to lose your biggest homegrown talent in MJF, because then those fickle fans on social media and the internet wrestling community are going to say, well, AEW is all WWE rejects and it's terrible. And oh my God, this is the worst thing ever in the world. So to combat that, you got to keep MJF in house. One day he will be in WWE. One day for sure.
He's calling it right now. One day may not be this day. Shannon, what do you expect about the MJF rumor mill right now?
I'm not buying the daggum thing about him going to Connecticut WWE in the next 2 years, because I believe that his contract is locked down to 2027, if I'm not mistaken, because I've heard that he's already signed something. I don't know. And honestly, once again, we got to leave the internet alone, even though we are part of the internet wrestling community. Right. Even though we are, that doesn't
we're
mean
positive though. That's what separates us from the rest.
But that doesn't mean we got to like each other, which is another thing, because we got some dumb fans. You know, all of us are fans. We have our favorite teams.
Yes.
And there are some fans you just look at and you're just like, you know what? I don't even want to be around you, man. I got fans of my favorite teams. I just look at it like, I ain't watching the game with you. And there's some wrestling fans out there that I just really look at that put their 2 cents on a lot of things and just need to stop. Because, once again, like you said, Mike, you said it perfectly. They're going to say that all it is a bunch of WWE rejects. That's what it's been said for a long time. And honestly,
exactly.
No, but what they really need to tell the story is about either that talent has been misused or not used enough is what they have to look at. Because if you look at the cases, and we don't have that much time, so I'm not even going to do that. But if you watch wrestling enough, you know who's been misused and you know who has not been used enough. That's why they travel. That's why they go. A la Nick Nemeth, a.k.a. Dolph Ziggler, has not been used that great in WWE, but yet he had a lot of people in front of him. I get it, and that's okay. He's on a world tour. He's doing a wonderful job. Old Zack Ryder. Look at him. He's doing great. He's making more money than what he made in WWE doing his world tour. So they would be foolish to lose MJF. They would be very foolish to lose him. Do I think he's going to go WWE down the road? The verdict is out. There were people saying that Kenny Omega was going to go WWE, and that's not out of the question just yet. Especially with what's going on in AEW right now. That's not out of the question just yet. we may get him against Cody one day down the line in the WWE ring. We might do that. We may not have to go on WWE 2K and make. We might not have to, a la Michael Davis last year. We might not have to do that. It might happen. So there's plenty of possibilities. But MJF is not going anywhere, not yet, because he's going to win that title again, I believe, and be one of the greatest heels of wrestling in another year, like he was the year before and the year before.
And it's so interesting. You guys make excellent points. It would be so detrimental to AEW to lose MJF to WWE.
Absolutely.
And the big swing a couple years ago, AEW was doing fantastic. And then Cody Rhodes, who helped start AEW, decides he wants to return to the place that made him paint his face and put a star and, go to the galaxy and whatever.
Do you
I like Stardust. I'm in the minority. I was entertained by Stardust. I'm just saying.
Do you like how he made that you wants to all in his promo?
Oh yeah.
I'm hoping I'm not the only one that caught that.
I love what Cody does in his promos in WWE
Me too.
because he does slight nuances. He obviously he's not going to just be like, yeah, I was in AEW, but he'll say, you guys know me. You guys know in Chicago, I keep my promises. Obviously, right? All in.
Go.
That was a good little reference when he does the two
another
sweet
sellout crowd,
another sellout crowd. He's funny. What was the running joke for a while there? Like the Cody lie. Like that's like he knows, right? He's so good. It's so good. I love it.
Nah, man, when your dad is a legend, you learn all the tools of the trade from your father. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I personally don't think that MJF is leaving. I think they took his merch off right before WrestleMania to have fans speculate, and hopefully, like if MJF doesn't show up, hopefully they're like, oh, this is a huge letdown. I don't think it will be. I think this is going to be one of the greatest WrestleManias we have ever witnessed, especially now that Vince is fully out of the picture. It is Triple H's baby. He's had an entire year to build this. Like the last real Vince show we got was last year's Raw After Mania, which didn't even make sense at all.
You know how hype I was? That was my first Raw After Mania. I was so excited. I was telling my girlfriend, I was like, this is going to be the best wrestling show, surpass WrestleMania. And it went on to be the worst wrestling show I had ever been in attendance for.
I know.
About it. And then me and Mike talked about it on the Drop the Mic afterwards, man. It was like, was it a letdown, Shannon? You better believe it was a letdown. That was garbage.
And what I really expect to happen is they're advertising this Dynasty pay-per-view. Will Ospreay is going to wrestle Bryan Danielson. Dynasty just looks like MJF. MJF used to be a part of Dynasty in Major League Wrestling. Unfortunately, Hammerstone has went to TNA. Richard Holiday might be a free agent potentially. But it just sounds and looks like the perfect MJF return. But you got to put Adam Cole in something. You got to put Roderick Strong or the Undisputed Kingdom in some way for MJF to cost him or whatever. But we'll have to see. And it's interesting because there have been people to jump to WWE from AEW and vice versa. Like AEW here in the last couple of years, they've lost Cody Rhodes. They've lost Jade Cargill. They lost CM Punk, thanks to Jack Perry / CM Punk himself. But AEW's also gained people. They gained Kazuchika Okada. They gained Mercedes Moné. They gained Will Ospreay. They gained Adam Copeland here in the last 3 months, and particularly 3 of those here in the last 3-4 weeks that have really helped change the tide. So I'm going to ask you guys before we dive a little bit more into what AEW is doing right now. If there was a trade per se, and you're like, okay, WWE gets this talent from either AEW or free agency and vice versa with AEW getting these talent, who do you think's won this trade with CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, and Jay Cargill for Kazuchika Okada, Mercedes Moné, Will Ospreay, and Adam Copeland? Mike, I'm going to hit you with this one real quick.
Who won the trade? Let's look at it from like how we would, I guess NFL, and you look at like the age. Okay, so WWE pick up CM Punk. He's a little up there in age. They pick up Jade Cargill. She's prime time age for a prime run. Cody Rhodes also in the prime of his career. On the flip side, AEW picks up Cope, who's at the latter half of his career. They pick up Okada, who's, I'd say he's in his prime. He's almost towards, that part of where he's going to be a part-timer. And Mercedes Moné, who's also in her prime. I'd say it's a pretty even trade, but to me personally, I would give the edge to WWE because they got two of the more known stars. Yes, AEW got Adam Copeland and they got Mercedes, but let's just be real here. I would think a vast majority of American wrestling fans probably didn't know who Okada was.
Right.
Unless you're a hardcore, you're watching New Japan 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, then you know who Okada is. You've probably heard of him if you're a casual wrestling fan, but you probably never got to see him in action or clips on social media. So I give the edge to WWE, but if you really look at it on that standpoint, I'd say it's a very even trade. I think it's a very even trade because both sides got guys who are up there in age. Both got two guys who are in their prime, and they each got a woman who's in their prime. So I'd say pretty even.
Shannon?
This is the part where two things I want here. I want PJ Steven on this show here because he will possibly say AEW got it because he's a big New Japan guy. So, and then second, I would like for my non-wrestling, my American wrestling fans to go delve into New Japan.
Seriously.
10 years and see what groundwork Kazuchika Okada has done in New Japan. AEW probably would not exist without this man because of the work that he's put in with Kenny Omega, the work he's put in with the Young Bucks, all of Bullet Club, Adam Page, all those guys. Japan is the hub for wrestling, and a lot of people got to look at that, i.e., Yabba Dabba Daddy going to Japan, you know what I'm saying? So that's the hub of wrestling. Japan, if you make it in Japan, you make it anywhere. You ask Hulk Hogan. And so that's one of the things that you got to look at. So my American fans really got to watch it because I love New Japan. I loved it for the past 10 years. It's going in a different direction now. But back to what you're saying here, Cody, I think, tips the scale for this. I think he tips the scale because he's the most over baby face in all of wrestling right now. But I hate to say they both won because you got to have a clear cut winner. For the American wrestling fans, it's WWE all day long.
Mm-hmm.
For your world fans, your guys like us who watch so many different promotions, it's not even funny. For the wrestling fan, I think it has to be AEW. But guys, let's just address the elephant in the room. Wrestling is cool again.
Yeah.
We're in a boom period. People
Seriously.
are watching so much wrestling. There's wrestling everywhere. No one can talk about a bad promotion anymore. And I'm so glad to see that. Every bit of wrestling is good in its own right. AEW might not be great at telling stories, but their wrestling is over the top and it's really good. WWE's got the best storytelling. TNA is back and they're actually putting up a relevant fight in wrestling. And then New Japan is still world sports, king of sports. It's still going good. Wrestling is cool. We're happy. I'm happy. Way to go, wrestling.
Yeah. I mean,
Now-
he said it perfectly.
Yeah. Now, to be clear to anyone watching us on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel, you can subscribe. You can catch our conversation from yesterday when we did Top Rope Tuesday. Mike was on that show. We keep doing Out of Pocket live on your lunch breaks. But you're watching Drop the Mic today. This question is not to fire up the tribalism crowd when it goes to WWE versus AEW. I think when AEW came into existence in 2019, it made WWE step up their game a little bit, but they still had somebody in the area of their creative who just didn't care and they just
Mhm.
wanted to do their own thing. But once that person was removed from that creative room, there was a guy who stepped up, who knew the game was on and knew they had to step up their game. So that meant WWE stepped up their game. That's when we got the bloodline. That's when we got how great that story is. And it's trickling to the rest of the shows. And now AEW's realizing, oh crap, we actually do got to step up our game. So competition, especially like the Attitude Era with WCW and WWF, it elevates everybody's game. So this question is not to bring out, oh, AEW's better or, oh, WWE's better because it's been here forever. And that's like the cream of the crop right there. Oh, yeah, dig it. No. Okay. But I will say this, when it comes to this trade that happened, AEW, in my mind, was a clear winner. Here's why. WWE has CM Punk. I'm going to push CM Punk off to the side because we've only seen him in one house show match that was non-televised and a Royal Rumble, and we're about to see him on commentary. It's unfortunate with his health. It's unfortunate with his age, but he just hasn't been around. The lure of CM Punk going to AEW has not hit the same as it was CM Punk going to WWE and what's followed. We might get CM Punk back healthy and he might do some really great stuff, but until then, it's okay. Jade Cargill has not wrestled outside the Royal Rumble yet. That is a huge gaffe. That's a huge whiff for WWE. They're like, oh, she wasn't ready, kind of taking a stab at AEW's developmental system that doesn't exist. But she hasn't shown what she can do in terms of potential. Cody Rhodes was like getting an MVP caliber candidate in a trade. Like Cody has, we mentioned Bianca Belair took over that Cena role. Cody Rhodes has taken over that Cena role for the men's side. And the fact that he can main event back-to-back WrestleManias, whether he wins or loses this time, goes say it itself. Okay? Then you look at what AEW's got. WWE tried to get Kazuchika Okada. Okada opts to join AEW. WWE tried to get Sasha Banks back. Nope. Sasha's not a thing anymore. Mercedes Moné is in AEW. Okay. They tried to get Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay feels more comfortable in his prime. Honestly, I don't even know if he's reached his prime yet. He is incredible. If you've ever watched his stuff live in person, like you understand how incredible that guy is. Will Ospreay is like, he could be the Cody figure of AEW now.
Good shout.
And then Adam Copeland, formerly known as Edge, decides, hey, his work in WWE's done. Let me go to AEW. And if we get nothing else out of Adam Copeland, we got a finishing chapter of Adam Copeland versus Christian Cage that WWE couldn't deliver because Christian had already went to AEW. So when you look at all that and you look at the potential that Ospreay and Okada and Moné have in AEW, even though Monet's already said she will go back to WWE one day, I think this is AEW all the way. But you guys can let us know on our social media, on our YouTube channel, in the comments what you guys think. But I'd be remiss without mentioning there were a couple titles that changed hands last week. And I've been excited to mention this because Adam Copeland is a champion. He did not get to win a championship after his 2020 Royal Rumble return. And so after watching that match, I thought it was done spectacularly. Real quick, because I know we're at the end of our show, was it the right decision to put the title on Copeland? And even further, was this the best match we've had since Adam Copeland returned from his neck injury in 2020? Mike?
Yeah, I think so. This is good decision here. I personally would have looked for Christian's title reign to continue, but I'm cool with this. Adam gets to do the Cope Open now with TNT title, get the younger talent that haven't been showcased on AEW prominently. There you go. There's a fix for some of the misused or unguidable wrestlers that you didn't really have a direction for. As for his best match, I think this would definitely be up there with the match he had with Sheamus on that last Friday Night SmackDown appearance. So I'd put these together on that. I'd edge this into the number one spot just because you did have the element of weapons and, a brawl outside. But definitely that match with Sheamus was pretty solid too.
Did you say this match would edge its way to number 1?
Yeah.
There a little pun intended right there.
I don't know. You think you know me.
What's the better reference, guys? Let us know in the comments. Was it me getting Shannon on "It doesn't matter what you think," or was it Mike's "You think you know me"? Shan, what did you think about Adam Copeland winning the TNT title last week? Do you think this is his best match since his return from neck injury?
It was ended perfectly. I was hoping that Adam Copeland, which I never thought in a million years I'd be saying as a wrestler, I never thought I'd be saying that. But, I've been watching wrestling for a long time and things have changed. The only thing I've learned is that inconsistency is consistency in wrestling. So that's what I've learned. But I think it was perfect for him to get a title, especially from his best friend, Christian Cage, who probably wanted this match more than he did. And so that was incredible. It was great doing that. And also, I do want to say that I would be remiss without mentioning that wonderful match that he had at WrestleMania with Finn Balor. It was a triple threat match. That was the best match to me from Adam Copeland / Edge's final run in wrestling. I think it was great. This was vintage Edge bringing out the weapons, old school Edge and Christian, tables, ladders, and chairs. The hardcore matches, the ladders, things of that nature. There was so many elements in that match, and I honestly think that Edge is going to be the gentleman, like we've all said, the ultimate gentleman sport, just like Jericho has done and built these young guys up. And I think that it is great for the locker room. It's great for these younger guys out there. Edge will educate these guys into doing this, and I'm happy for it. I'm all for it. It's good seeing from someone who's watched Edge from his beginning match to now. I must say the Edge has got to be in that top 5 of guys that I've seen and followed the careers of, and I love it. I mean, good for Edge, good for Christian Cage, good for Adam Copeland, Edge, whatever you want to call him. Good, good for
Yeah.
us. Good for
Wayne
all of
Thomas, who was on Out of Pocket yesterday with me and Mike and Dez, like he texted me just, we'll text back and forth. He's like, "Who's your top 10 favorite wrestlers?" And I'm like, "Man, that's so hard to say." But like, Edge is like, if he's not number 1, he's like number 2 or 3. I've loved Edge. If you're not watching AEW, I suggest you educate yourself with Adam Copeland's work in AEW. Thanks, Shannon, for that pun. But that wasn't the only title that changed hands last week. Kazuchika Okada beat Eddie Kingston for the Continental Crown Championship. Was this the right decision for Eddie to drop the title to Okada, especially this soon in Okada's AEW tenure? And how long do you think Okada hangs on to this title? Mike, I know you're a big Eddie Kingston guy. Was this bittersweet?
Man, this is a tough one for me. I love Eddie Kingston. He's just the epitome of like, blue collar workman's champ. He's going to go out there defend the title against just about anybody. I think it is a good decision because you essentially just told the crowd that's watching, this Okada guy, yeah, he's for real. He's been here for 2 weeks. He won a title. Obviously, you can argue the Young Bucks, Nicholas and Matthew, your EVPs, had a little bit of a hand in getting that match moved up and him moved up the rankings, which you can also argue is working in line with that Young Bucks and the new elite. I'm here for it. Eddie Kingston, I think, unfortunately, it looks like the Triple Crown Championship is going to be dissolved for a little bit. It looks like all 3 of those titles are going to go back to their respective companies. I think the Strong Openweight Championship will head back to New Japan, and I think the Ring of Honor Championship will head back to Ring of Honor. And I think Eddie will probably get slotted into the TNT title picture maybe, or the World Heavyweight Championship picture.
So before Shannon speaks, I was going to bring up a bold prediction of what was going to happen with these titles. And my thought process was that this Continental Crown Championship would be merged to one of the titles, whether it's the international title. I'm hoping not the TNT title. That wouldn't make sense. I think it's going to be the international title because there's too many mid-card titles right now. But I could totally see them like dissolving And I hope they do, because Ring of Honor needs an actual title. It's like if the NXT title got merged with the United States title and somebody had to like defend a combination of those two titles on NXT and then on SmackDown. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And it's not fair to the people on ROH trying to build that brand back up. Shannon, thoughts on Okada winning the title this soon into his AEW tenure?
I like Eddie Kingston as well too, Mike. I like him. I think that he would have held his own in ECW with Ted
yeah.
Raven and Tommy Dreamer and all those guys, because the blue collar wrestling would have been dope. Seeing him there, that would have been cool to see that. But like we said before, watch Kazuchika Okada the past 5-10 years and tell me why you would not put a title on that man as soon as the
It
door.
makes sense.
You can't tell me why he wouldn't. That man was a multiple-time IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. He's won the he's won so much in there. He is like, and I hate to say this because I don't want to slot Hiroshi Tanahashi, but I believe he's like what Sting was to WCW. I think that's what Kazuchika Okada was, and that to me is very important, that you keep those guys being relevant wherever they go. Like, I mean, Edge wins a title as soon as he walks in to AEW as Adam Copeland. He wins a title, and you can't doubt what these guys have done in the wrestling world. Kazuchika Okada deserved that. Eddie Kingston bowed out to him once again. Reason why wrestling is one of the best gentlemen's sport, is the ultimate gentleman's sport of all time. So here we are once again.
Well, absolutely. And tonight's Dynamite, you have Will Ospreay versus Katsuya Shibata. You have Konosuke Takeshita versus Swerve Strickland. You have Young Bucks versus Private Party. If you're not watching AEW solely because it's not WWE, I would highly recommend getting into it, because wrestling's cool again, just like Shannon mentioned. But we got to get out of here. Shannon and I are on the Cat Cave today because it was Ryan Frick's birthday yesterday. So we're holding the fort down, going to do some mock drafts. Mike was on Out of Pocket yesterday, so you can go watch that rerun. We did talk some wrestling in there. I got to slip it in. Top Rope Tuesday is what we're going to start doing. But yeah, thanks to everybody who tuned in today for Drop the Mic, and everyone who supported Tobacco Road the last few weeks with the return of Out of Pocket with Michael Davis. It genuinely means a lot to me. I love being able to do this. My schedule's a lot busier now, but I would much prefer that over what the fall was. So anyone knows, you know. But yeah, go find my guy, Mike Mele, at MOWM_podcast. He's also a part of the Wrestling Wednesday lineup. He's got his audio feed on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, but he has his own YouTube channel, Mouth It Off with Mike Wrestling Podcast. He does a weird final mouth off. He complained about Jericho, which was off base, but his final mouth off a couple weeks ago about TV ratings, I actually agree with. You guys should go find that. It's worthwhile there. Subscribe to the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel. You can find more Drop the Mic episodes. This year, you can find more Out of Pocket. Out of Pocket will be back tomorrow and Friday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time for your lunch break. It's your first daily sports show on Tobacco Road 4 times a week on this very YouTube channel. But most of all, thank you guys so much for spending your Wednesday with us on Drop the Mic. We have to get out of here, but whatever you do, don't drop the mic, and we will see you all next week.